Are we in a housing bubble right now? Is the real estate market going to crash? Should I invest in another property right now? If these are questions that are running through your mind, then stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to help answer them. The last housing bubble popped in 2008, which dropped housing prices by 18%. With real estate at an all-time high, it seems like it may be time for another housing bubble pop or a real estate crash. Let's answer the question of, should I get into real estate right now before prices go even higher? Or should I wait for a little bit for that housing bubble to pop? I am Tiffany Thomas with WealthyTiffany.com, and I currently invest in real estate. I've created over a 7-figure portfolio investment through real estate, and I became financially free at age 38, mostly due to real estate. I bought my first property in 2005 and bought my last property just a couple years ago in 2018. And if you are curious to know how I've done that, I did create a video for you. I will leave a link above and below in the description and you can check it out. So I like to keep my eye on the real estate market so I can see when to make another real estate property investment. All right, hit that like button and the subscribe button and we're gonna dive right in. Let's first define what a housing bubble pop or a real estate crash actually means. When the real estate market has been rising over time, which it has, prices increase because there is more demand than supply, meaning more people want to buy than there are houses for sale. Now, the actual pop or burst or crash, whatever you want to call it, actually happens when demand decreases or stagnates at the same time supply increases, resulting in a sharp drop in prices, and that's when the bubble bursts. Before I go into more detail, put in the comments below if you think there is going to be a real estate crash or a housing bubble pop anytime soon, and when you think it's going to happen. In order to see what can create this housing crash, let's take a look at the last housing crash that happened, which was in 2008. Because people who were caught in the 2008 crash may be spooked that the pandemic will lead to another crash. But the 2008 crash was caused by forces that are no longer present. One of the main issues that I want to talk about from the housing crash of 2008 is that people were approved for mortgage loans they actually couldn't afford. They didn't understand how the mortgage really worked. The restrictions for getting approved to purchase a home were very loose. Most of them were not getting your standard conventional 15 or 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And to give you a little backstory, higher interest rates preceded that housing collapse in 2006. Many borrowers then had interest-only loans and adjustable rate mortgages. Unlike that conventional loan, the interest rates rise along with the Fed funds rate. Many also had introductory teaser rates that reset after 3 years. When the Federal Reserve raised rates at the same time they reset, borrowers found they could no longer afford those housing payments. Home prices had fallen, so these mortgage holders couldn't make the payments or sell the house. As a result, default rates rose. Essentially, those that took out the home mortgage loans never should have been approved for those loans in the first place, and they didn't really understand how those loans worked. They didn't realize they would have a huge increase in their mortgage payment within just a few years, or when the Fed raised rates. All right, so what was done to turn that 2008 crash back around? For one, stricter lending policies were put in place. You can no longer go in and get approved for a really high mortgage loan without good credit or a good income rate or a low debt-to-income ratio. Rates have also been dropped, so you can now get a good rate on a fixed 30-year or 15-year mortgage. It seems as though the main causes of the 2008 crash have been fixed, and I know there are other causes than the one that I have mentioned, but I'm not going to get into all of them in this video. Let's talk about now. What could cause a real estate crash now? What could cause the housing demand to decrease or stagnate while supply increases, creating that huge drop in real estate prices? I want to talk about some of the worries that people have right now that they think could cause a real estate crash or the real estate bubble to pop. Because of the pandemic, a lot of mortgage payments have been put on hold. And I've heard people talk about, oh, well, when those payments come due, are they going to have to foreclose on the home and that will increase the supply of homes on the market? But here's what a lot of people don't know. Those payments can actually be added to the end of the loan. So they won't have to make up for all of those missed payments at once. If they are able to start paying their mortgage payments again on time, then their mortgage loan will continue on like normal, and they can just make up for those missed payments at the end of their mortgage loan. But if you're thinking, oh, well, what if people are still unemployed so they still aren't able to make their mortgage payments on time? Under the CARES Act, it states that you'll have 12 months to start making your payments again. So will people be able to make their mortgage payments in that 12-month time frame? Well, unemployment rates have been getting lower and lower since the pandemic started. And that trend should continue because businesses are able to open up again. They're increasing their hours. They are figuring out creative ways to bring back their employees or to hire more people. So I don't really see a lot of foreclosures coming onto the market, increasing our supply so much that it's going to make our prices drop really quickly. And what about interest rates increasing? Mortgage loan interest rates are at an all-time low right now. They've dropped to 3.13%, and I've even heard of people getting a lower mortgage rate than that. This is another reason that demand is increasing so much for real estate property. People can get so much more house for a lower mortgage payment. If rates increase, then mortgage payments will be higher. People often look at their monthly budget to determine how much house they can afford, how much mortgage payment they can actually afford to pay. Let me give you an example of this. If you have a $300,000 mortgage at an interest rate of 3.13%, you would pay $1,286 each month for your mortgage payment. Now, if we were to increase that interest rate to 5%, you would be paying $1,610 a month for your mortgage payment. And some people may not be able to afford that extra $324 each month, which means they wouldn't be able to afford a house at $300,000. Higher interest rates make loans more expensive. That slows home building and decreases its supply. But it also slows lending, which cuts back on demand. Overall, a slow and steady interest rate increase won't create a catastrophe, but quickly rising rates will. But remember that most people now have a 15-year or a 30-year mortgage that is a fixed rate. So they aren't worried about their interest rate jumping in the next little bit because they have a fixed rate instead of a variable rate. Unlike in 2008, where they had that variable interest rate or that low introductory interest rate, and when the rates changed, then their mortgage payments jumped way up. And if you're wondering if the Fed will increase rates really fast, the history of the Fed funds rate reveals that the Fed raised rates too fast between 2004 and 2006. The top rate was 1% in June of 2004 and doubled to 2.25% by December. Then it doubled again to 4.25% by December 2005, just 1 year later. And then 6 months later, the rate was 5.25%. The Fed raised rates at a much slower pace since 2015. It would make sense that the Fed would continue to slowly raise rates over time, seeing what happened in the past. And there's one other point that I want to bring up. Who is buying the majority of the homes right now? Millennials are actually buying the majority of the homes. And how large is the millennial population? The millennial generation is now larger than the baby boomer generation, which means there are quite a few millennials. And because of their large population, they can continue to drive that demand for houses up. After hearing all of this, comment below and tell me, if you haven't already, if you think there's going to be a real estate crash or a housing market bubble burst, and when you think it's going to happen. Here's my thoughts. Since the unemployment rate continues to decrease, and I think it will continue to decrease over time, and people are able to put off those missed mortgage payments until the end of their loan, we aren't going to see a large increase in foreclosures. So there won't be a huge supply of houses on the market because of foreclosures. I can continue to see the demand increase for houses and yet not have a drastic increase in supply. So personally, I don't feel like there is a housing market crash coming anytime soon. And of course, I could be completely wrong. I know there are others that definitely disagree with me. But as long as I stick to my strategy, which is to buy properties in good locations and hold them for the long term and continue to rent them out, then I'm not worried because I've run the numbers, I know the properties work for me, and even if the housing market does crash, it doesn't really matter because I'm not planning to sell that property right away and I'm not feeling strapped for cash or stressed about my investments. Remember to keep that long-term mindset, which will decrease your panic or your fear or the greed that you might have, and you will be okay over the long term. And I'm curious to know what you're going to do. Are you going to wait for a while until the housing bubble bursts, or are you going to get in right now before prices go even higher? Put in the comments and tell me what your plan is. And if you are looking to retire early or become financially free at a young age, then make sure and check out my free course, The Beginner's Guide to Financial Freedom at 40. I will leave the link below in the description. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and share it with someone else who would like to hear this information. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit the little bell to get notified on when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.